Hello, my name is Marquise Bailey, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the subject matter of culture shock. So, culture shock can be defined as the disorientation that somebody feels when they're put into a new environment, a new culture, a new way of living, anything of that nature. Now, one common misconception about culture shock is that it has to be from, someone going from one country to another country or one part of a country to another part of a country. But what people don't realize is that culture shock can take place almost anywhere and ideally everywhere. Um, I personally have experienced culture shock. In one of the discussion boards in the first week of class, it asked what culture shock was and to, give an example of somebody who has experienced culture shock or someone, or actually yourself, if you've experienced culture shock. And I talked about culture shock for me moving from Prince George's County to go to school in Baltimore, Morgan State. For me personally, it was really a wake-up call. Why? Baltimore showed me that I have it a lot better than I actually thought. We're just going to leave it at that. But living in Prince George's County, I live in Bowie, Maryland. Bowie, Maryland, there's not a lot of crime. There's not, there's not a whole lot of murder, things going on like that. So I'm not used to getting police reports, every day about someone getting robbed or someone getting stabbed, it just doesn't happen out here. I'm used to living in a suburban area, trees, nature, going to school in Baltimore. You see trees, but you see buildings and, polluted air. But we're not going to go into that because that's not, where we're going. But coming to Baltimore, it was just an entirely different environment. I had never, ever experienced something like that in my life. I mean, it does have its benefits, though, because it did teach me to be more alert about my surroundings and, making sure that I'm being safe no matter what. All types of things like that. But I mean, those are types of things that you learn in college. Baltimore is one big city. Like I said, I live in the suburbs. The closest thing to a city that I have is probably the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. But other than that, culture shock, it can leave you feeling homesick. It can leave you feeling very anxious, nervous, because you don't know how things are gonna go when you're in the new environment. But if you apply pressure and keep going with what you're doing, I'm pretty sure it'll turn out fine. Not to get into too much detail, but I also have a friend who is actually from Los Angeles, and she goes to school in Baltimore. So I mean, my culture shock is probably nothing close to her culture shock, but I mean, she found a way to cope with the new environment and make the best of all her situations. So that's culture shock.